Welcome back to Next Shift with Rick Wagan. Suzuki does not suck. The Montreal Canadiens take on the Boston Bruins tonight after two very difficult losses against the Los Angeles Kings 5-1 and a 7-0 loss to the Dallas Stars. The Montreal Canadiens got bad news this week after that last game with Alex Newhook breaking his ankle, having surgery, and he's going to be out for 4 months. Kaiden Guhle, after 4 or 5 weeks of rehab, needed to get surgery on his partially torn abductor and is out for another 8 to 10 weeks. Those are two big losses for the Montreal Canadiens, and they go into tonight's game with some new players. Jared Davidson has been called up from the minor leagues, AHL. He was a 5th-round pick, played in the WHL for a few years, played at Laval for the last couple of years. This year, he has 9 goals and 2 assists in 13 games. Tonight, the Montreal Canadiens play the Boston Bruins. The Boston Bruins are tied with the Montreal Canadiens in first place in the Atlantic. They have played an extra couple of games. The Montreal Canadiens come into the game having lost 2 in a row in regulation, 4 of their last 5 if you count shootouts and overtime losses. They're definitely not playing to the same high level that they were playing earlier on in the season, and the Montreal Canadiens come to this game with a lot of pressure, 2 goalies that have lost a lot of their confidence. Tonight, Samuel Montembeault comes into play. He had a good game a couple of games ago, beating the Utah Mammoth 6-2. The following game against the Los Angeles Kings was less good, and they ended up losing that game 5-1, 4 goals scored against him. Tonight, we have some new lines to look at. The first line remains intact, at least to start the game. Demidov and Kapanen have a new line mate in Kirby Dach, and Veleno has been moved from the wing to center, playing with Jared Davidson and Brendan Gallagher. The other line is Bolduc is now playing with Evans and Anderson. So there's 3 new lines below the first line. We'll talk a little bit about each one of those lines and a little bit about the defense and how it's going to handle the loss of Guhle for another 8 to 10 weeks. If you look at the second line, if you want to call it that, of Kapanen, Dach, and Demidov, and this is how they're going to start the game. Obviously, it's a big loss. Newhook has been playing very well. I'm not the biggest fan of Newhook, but this year I think he's stepped it up. Definitely looks good on a line with Demidov and Kapanen. His speed he was using a lot, played some good penalty killing minutes. This game, Montreal Canadiens are going to take Kirby Dach and put him on a line with Kapanen and Demidov. This is probably 5 of their top 6 offensive players. I think he split up Kirby Dach and Bolduc mostly because he wants to have a more responsible lineup in the second line. I think Kapanen is a little bit more responsible defensively than Bolduc right now, and therefore putting Bolduc and Dach together with Demidov could be a problem on the defensive side of the puck. So I agree with this move. I probably would have put Bolduc instead of Dach, but I think he gives Dach a chance to play with Demidov. Now that Dach is playing some solid hockey, perhaps he'll get a lot more opportunities and maybe the chemistry will click in between Dach and Demidov. If not, they can always make a quick switch and put Bolduc on that line in the middle of the game. Bolduc has been playing with Dach and Gallagher the last few games. If we're going to be honest, Bolduc started the season very strong. He had obviously a great end to his season in St. Louis as well. He was pulled off the first power play, lost a lot of his minutes, hasn't been playing the same type of hockey, hasn't been getting his shots on net. It's been a tough run for Bolduc right now, and I'm hopeful with the play of Evans the last couple of games, playing okay in the last couple of games. Evans has definitely stepped up his game, and Anderson had a really good game against the Kings, and then he kind of went back to normal, if you want to call it that, against the Stars. So hopefully Bolduc on a line with Evans and Anderson will work. I think it could. I think it's better than Veleno, for sure. And therefore, I think that's a good opportunity for Bolduc to get some shots, get some opportunities, play against some of the weaker lines on the Bruins, and hopefully that will get his game going. And like I said, if Dach does not perform on the line with Demidov, they didn't seem to have great chemistry in the early part of this preseason. And so if that continues in the first half of this game, I wouldn't be surprised. if Martin St. Louis switched up those two players. The last line, we're going to get a first look at Davidson. Davidson plays like a big forward, but he's not. So he's not a very heavy big forward, but he plays with a lot of aggressiveness. He has an elite shot. He doesn't have elite speed. This year, it sounds like he's definitely improved his speed overall, but that's probably his weakness. And then he's going to be playing on a line with Gallagher, which I think is going to be good for him, and Veleno. Veleno has not played a full game at center yet. He definitely has been taking a lot of draws, but this will be his first opportunity to play center. I've not been a huge fan of Veleno. I'm not very hopeful that he's going to turn the page with this, but it'll give him that shot of seeing if he could play center. It's probably a tough place for Davidson to make a big impact, although Gallagher seems to improve everybody's line that he plays on. So even though Gallagher has no goals, I think he has 6 assists, he just hasn't put the puck in the net, but he does bring a level of energy and a level of consistency that I think will help Davidson and hopefully Veleno. So I'm excited about this lineup. Obviously, Newhook is a loss, but if Kirby Dach could play to his potential and does get chemistry with Demidov, I don't think it's as huge a loss as some people may think. Now, penalty killing is a different conversation. We'll have to see who he puts on the penalty kill. Obviously, there's 3 guys that remain from the penalty killing units, whether it's EVANS, Anderson, and Kapanen. Obviously, Nick Suzuki could play some penalty killing. However, he's been injured, not practicing for the last couple of weeks. And so we'll have to see who he decides to play full-time on the penalty kill. I've heard names like Slavkovsky. I've heard names like Gallagher. I've heard names like Veleno. So we'll see who he decides to put on that penalty kill. That will be an interesting angle. And obviously the Boston Bruins have a very strong power play, and the Montreal Canadiens rotate their penalty killers very quickly, 20, 30-second shifts. So whoever they choose will be up against one of the top power plays in the league. On defense, it's the same lineup. They've had a hard time the last couple of games. I feel like Guhle is a bigger loss than a lot of people are talking about. Not even because Struble can't handle the left side with Hudson as much as, and I might get some hate for this, Mike Matheson is playing 26, 27 minutes a game. And in the beginning of the year, he's playing 22, 23. And although that might not seem like a lot, it kind of falls back into some of the bad habits that he showed last season. He's been very, very solid. He's been very strong on the penalty kill. He's not playing power play still. So from that perspective, he's not, taking as many shots into the shins as other years. He's actually improved that aspect of his game. I just find that when he's playing a lot of minutes, it just gives him more opportunity to make a few more mistakes. Again, kudos to Mike Matheson. He's been playing solid hockey, but I think losing Guhle just puts an added layer of pressure on him and Dobson, who both tend to make smaller but constant mistakes, and therefore that's going to be a risk. Struble has not played the best couple of games, and unfortunately Lane Hudson, he's -3 against the Kings and -4 against the Stars. So he's been -7 the last couple of games. I'm looking for him to rebound tonight as well. Obviously, the Canadiens are going through a hard time. We'll talk a little bit about it post-game. I'm not totally optimistic about tonight's game. They're going to need a big start from Samuel Montembeault. They're going to need whoever that 4th player is to kill penalties do a great job. There's also a bit of a gap in the second power play. I'm not sure what he's going to do there. I thought, and again, it's a bit of a stretch, is to put Demidov on both power plays. I think that could be interesting to me. I don't know if he has the stamina and can handle that. I know the Montreal Canadiens put Suzuki on both power plays last year. I think right now Suzuki's hobbling around, and I don't think he's the right player to do that, but we'll see. They can also put Matheson and Dobson on the power play. They can also put Kapanen on the power play with Bolduc and Gallagher and Dach. So it'll be interesting to see who gets that nod. The Montreal Canadiens are facing adversity for the first time this season, and therefore we'll see how it all plays out. Excited for the game. Montreal Canadiens against the Boston Bruins, battle of first place, along with the Ottawa Senators. I'm obviously disappointed in some of the Montreal Canadiens fan base being completely negative through the positive start I think there was a lot of negativity towards Monty, some negativity towards some of the other players. Now we see a team that maybe deserves a little negativity. And from that perspective, we're hopeful that they can kind of turn things around and play the type of hockey they played a little earlier on in the season. Granted, in the earlier part of the season, a lot of these games were either last-minute comebacks, 2-goal leads that dissipated right before the end of the game, and they had to go into overtime to win some games. But that being said, they were winning the games. They were in the games. Their players were playing solid hockey. So looking forward to tonight. The Montreal Canadiens take on the Boston Bruins. We'll have a post-game show afterwards. That's it for me. That's it for next shift. Talk to you guys soon.
Go!